Greetings, people of the webs, Jake here. So, going on 3 weeks now with Fantastic Four being out, and it's apparently a flop. So, gonna be honest, I'm not super surprised, just based on the last two Marvel movies that came out this year, which were both flops, but also just in general the kind of trajectory that Marvel have been going the last couple years. I think the only major hit they had, with their movies, was Deadpool and Wolverine. And, gonna be honest, it's a little bit of a shame, because Fantastic Four is actually not a bad movie. It's the first movie that I've seen since Deadpool and Wolverine, and I don't know, the last Marvel, Secret Wars, not Secret Wars, Secret Invasion was the last show that I watched, and I wish I didn't. So yeah, that kind of, it is a little bit of a shame, even though, and granted, if you want to know a little bit more of my thoughts, you can watch my review, but suffice to say that, I think this is, had this come out in, Phase 1 through 3, it'd be, a pretty middle-tier movie, not bad, not one of the better ones, not one of the worst, lesser ones, but, when you have pretty much nothing but garbage, and you have a decent movie, it seems a lot better than what it maybe is. But all that to say, again, I'm still not surprised that it flopped, but I do think it deserves to do a little bit better, just because, I would like to award movies or shows that are actually good, but, sadly, that's not the way this works. But that being said, this definitely does not bode well for Doomsday, because that's the next movie. I think Spider-Man Brand New Day, is supposed to come out before Doomsday, but I think Spider-Man, that'll be fine, because this Spider-Man movie will be a little bit more isolated from, the rest of the MCU, and also, No Way Home was, in my opinion, the last really good Spider-Man movie, or MCU movie, rather, and so I feel like just based on, the goodwill of that, Brand New Day will probably be fine. Assuming that it's a good movie, I think it'll be fine. It'll do well. Maybe not, quite as well as No Way Home, just because I think that was the better way to handle a multiverse story, where you had all three Peter Parkers teaming up. That was really cool. So I think that'll be fine. But, as far as Doomsday, because Fantastic Four was teamed up for Doomsday. And also, and I've been talking about this pretty much ad nauseum, especially with, these videos regarding the MCU and just big-budget movies in general, they've got to scale it down. Because I think had Fantastic Four been on a budget of, say, $150 million, I don't know what it's at now, probably around, the 400-ish mark, I want to say, or close to that. This movie would be, if not profitable at this point, it'd be getting close to the point of profitability. But I think the budget for this movie was probably around I think it was over 200 with just the production budget, not including marketing and all that. So the fact that a movie needs, this movie and a lot of other movies recently from both Marvel, DC, and just big budgets, these big studios in general have been making these movies that are around $200+ million. Which means they usually have to make 700 minimum just to break even, which is insane, especially because we're not in that, especially with the MCU, we're not at the current period where it was almost a guaranteed hit that every MCU movie, regardless of whether it was okay or good, was going to be a smash hit. If anything, that's quite the opposite. If there's a movie that does really well, it's kind of an outlier, like Deadpool and Wolverine. And I proposed the question, in a video a while back, and I think that was the first, I guess, in this kind of series, documenting, the MCU for this year, because I kind of proposed that, 2025 would be the make-or-break year for Marvel, because, they hadn't had a whole lot of success, or less success, over the last couple of years, and, with 3 big movies coming out this year, and then 3 shows, again, Fantastic Four leading up to Doomsday, it's all right, are all 3 films going to flop, or are they all going to do well, or maybe 1 flop, 2 successes, some kind of combination. But digressing, the point that I was getting at with that video is I was kind of thinking that, like, Doomsday is almost too big to succeed. Because, again, we're in a different era with Marvel, whereas before, any Avengers movie, that's a guaranteed billion-dollar hit, or more. Because I think Infinity War and Endgame both made, like, $2 billion? I don't foresee that happening. Even if Doomsday's good, or even if it's great, I still feel like there's no guarantee that either Secret Wars or Doomsday are going to make $1 billion. Or at least, because I imagine these movies will have to make $1 billion minimum just before they're breaking even with, like, production budget, marketing, salaries for the actors, because they're basically bringing almost everyone back, including all the new characters and all that stuff. So, I just don't foresee the next two Avengers movies going well financially, even if they are good, which the only thing that makes me think that they could still be good is the Russo brothers are directing, and it's the same writing team that did Captain America: Winter Soldier, which is my favorite and I think the best MCU movie. They did Civil War, and then they did Avengers: Infinity War and Endgame. So, 4 of, like, the best Marvel movies, same creative team. So that's kind of the only reason I think that this could still be good. But again, even if it's good, I'm still skeptical that these movies will do well financially. Just because it doesn't seem like there's a lot of interest anymore in Marvel movies. But that being said, maybe there's a chance that that's one of the reasons why the Marvel movies haven't, or the MCU in general has felt kind of stagnant, is we haven't had an Avengers movie in a while. Because used to, like, an Avengers film would cap off each phase. The first Avengers capped off phase 1. Age of Ultron capped off phase 2. And then Infinity War Endgame capped off phase 3. Whereas phase 4 and 5 have just felt very bland, pretty forgettable. And the whole multiverse saga is just dumb, and I think it was a mistake. But yeah, maybe, again, still skeptical, but maybe the fact that they're making an Avengers movie, maybe that'll get enough, like, interest, and people will be like, well, hey, I haven't seen any of the recent stuff, but maybe I'll go see Avengers, because they're usually entertaining. But the counterpoint to that is, and I think one of the reasons why the Marvel movies, one of many reasons why the Marvel movies have been doing well, is it feels like you have to watch all the shows and movies to know what's going on. So, the counterpoint to the Avengers movies, piquing people's interest, is maybe people are like, I kind of want to see it, but I haven't watched any shows or movies in the last, 2 years, so I'm probably not going to know who any of the new characters are or what's going on. So, yeah, that's kind of why I'm very kind of torn on whether Avengers, either movies, will do well financially. But yeah, those are more or less my I wanted to keep this video relatively short, and just kind of still, I guess, more or less document the 2025 for MCU. But also do want to quickly, before I wrap this up, so earlier in the week, recorded a podcast with the original gang of the Pasty Pale crew, which for those of you who haven't been following the channel for very long, with channel first kind of really started becoming active on a regular basis. Me and a group of friends were basically recording podcasts, mostly doing movie reviews, trailer reactions, stuff like that. But basically, we kind of, after several years of not recording together, we kind of got back together, reminisced about the good old days, and just kind of talked about modern movie industry and a little bit of everything. So that will probably be up this weekend, assuming that I can get it edited and uploaded by then, but that's kind of my goal, to get it uploaded by this weekend. So, for those of you who have been following this channel for a while and have missed the old Pasty Pale gang, minus Dave, you can check out the podcast. And for those of you who are new, maybe just check it out anyways to know how this kind of channel came to be, and the different, I guess, phases this channel's gone through. Because it was a lot of fun. And, yeah. So, that wraps up this video. Until next time, everyone, cheers.